So for this problem, the first thing you have to do is figure out some distances. So look, they give you so this hurricane passes over the island 60 degrees northwest with a speed of 41 kilometers per hour. 3 hours later, so look, if you're going 41 kilometers per hour for 3 hours, how far did you go? 123 kilometers. So the first, because this is a distance question or a displacement question, not a velocity question. So you have to figure out the distances from the given velocities and time. Okay, so this right here is going to turn into 123 kilometers because that lasts for 3 hours. Does that make sense? If you like equations, the equation I'm using to figure this out, velocity is displacement over time. So displacement is velocity times multiplied by time. So 41 times 3. All right, now this one here. So then the hurricane suddenly shifts direction and goes due north, and then the speed changes to 25 kilometers per hour. How far from the island is the hurricane 4.5 hours later? So here's the question. How long does this speed last for? 1.5 hours. Right? Because the first one lasted for 3, and then the question is, where will the hurricane be 4.5 hours later? So this speed lasted for 1.5 hours. So if it lasts for 1.5 hours, what's the distance going to be for that velocity? 37.5. Right? Okay. So now we can do the problem. So north, south, west, east. I heard a couple people when you were working on this, this is confusing for a lot of students. 60 degrees north of west. Okay, so here's north, south, east, west. 60 degrees north of west is this way, where this angle here is 60 degrees, right? It's 60 degrees north of west, okay? So I'm going to put a dot here. This dot represents the island, okay? And then the hurricane passes over the island, and then the first thing it does is it goes for 123 kilometers at an angle of 60 degrees north of west. So here we go. So this is going to be about 60 degrees, and we'll say that is 123 kilometers. Now, I'm not doing this graphically. I'm going to solve this mathematically. If you're doing this graphically, then what do you have to do? If you're doing it graphically, you got to measure this angle with a protractor. I just eyeballed it, okay? But if you're doing it graphically, you get a protractor, and then you also have to scale this out. You need to say, like 1 centimeter represents 10 kilometers or something like that. Okay, so this is 123 kilometers. Now, the hurricane then changes direction and travels directly north for 37.5. So just kind of make it shorter than the first vector. So I don't like that. So this is directly north. That is 37.5 kilometers. So the thing we're being asked to solve for is the distance from the hurricane, which is here, to the island. Okay? So we're basically looking for the resultant. So I'll put that in red. So from there to there, that's the resultant vector. Okay, so now how do we go about solving for that resultant vector? Well, to do it mathematically, you got to figure out what's the total x and what's the total y. So let me go to magenta. So look, this first vector, the 123, it has x component. Oops. It has an x component, which is that, and it has a y component, which is that. So we're going to have to calculate this x component and this y component. So we're going to sum everything up x, and we're going to sum everything up y. what we're trying to do here is figure out our total x and our total y. So how many vectors do we have that are perfectly x? Only one, this guy right here. And how do we solve for that? Cosine 60 times 123. Right? And then why did I make that negative? Well, our sign convention goes plus, minus, like that. Okay? So this comes out to be negative 61.5 kilometers. All right, how many y components do we have? 2. This guy right here is y, and this guy right here is y. So this is going to be sine 60 times 123, right? We're just doing trig there, plus 37.5 equals, so this adds up to 144.021 kilometers. So this is our total y. This is our total x. Okay? So now that we have total x and total y, what do? Put them tip to tail. We go, here's total x, 61.5 kilometers to the left, and then here's our total y. Make it a little longer, 144.021. The answer that we're looking for, put it in red, is the hypotenuse, called the resultant. So how do we get that resultant? Pythagorean theorem, which I'm not going to show, you guys can do it, 156.6 kilometers. Now, do you have to include the direction? If you want to be money, I would. If you want to be money, I'd put the direction on there, but do they ask for the direction? No, they just say how far. But if you wanted to find the direction, you solve for this angle in here. So you go theta equals tangent inverse opposite, which is 144.021, over adjacent, which is 61.5, and then we get an angle of about 67 degrees. I'll round that, 67 degrees. And then which way is that? 67 degrees, 67 degrees northwest. So the hurricane, from the time it passed the island, it's 156.6 kilometers away at 67 degrees northwest.